Possible trigger warning.
I have lots of different series, right? I have my trap life stories. I have the jail stories. I have lots of different series of stories. But we're gonna start a new one, stories from my childhood. Now, it's not a secret that my childhood was really traumatic. I loved my dad to death. He was my best friend. Every single good piece of him definitely lives on inside of me. But my childhood was crazy. I mean, crazy. Now, the majority of my childhood, I've actually blocked out. You know, the mind does incredible things to try and protect us. So, most before the age of like 10, I don't really remember. So, I don't remember a lot, but I do have sporadic memories of certain things, and this is one of the memories that sticks out the most. So, yeah, my dad was an alcoholic, and the majority of his friends were alcoholics. I watched my dad fight so many times. Like, my dad was single for a really long time. It was just me and him. So I never really seen him fight with women until he got with the woman who eventually became like my stepmom. But I watched him fight his friends and men like all the time. So there was this one time that we were living in the trailer, and this is the first house that I can remember living in, and we moved out when I was like 7, maybe 8, and it was before then, so around this time period, 6, 7, 8, probably not 6, excuse me, we were in the trailer, and my dad was there. So my dad and his friends were all hanging out, they were drinking, I was there. That was a totally normal thing, nothing new, I'm used to it. And something happened, and the situation escalated, and people started getting loud, and I knew that a fight was coming. And lots of times my dad would get seriously hurt in these fights because he didn't have any fear, but he was old, and he was his body was not at its best. So like, I watched my dad get his ass kicked so many times. So like, I would start to panic, and I remember my dad telling me to go into his bedroom and shut the door and not to come out until he came and got me. So I did, and I went down into his bedroom, which was at the end of the hall, and they were in the kitchen, which was like in the middle of the trailer down the hallway, and they started fighting. So I started hearing like screaming and yelling and banging around and glass breaking, and it was crazy. But again, I'm used to this. It's normal. Like, I'm scared, but at the same time, like, this chaos is my life. So I'm in the bedroom, I don't know for how long, and it goes quiet, and I'm listening, and I can remember putting my head on the door and my little heart just pounding because I didn't know what happened. I didn't know if my dad was dead. I didn't know what happened. And remember, my dad was all I had. Like, that was it. My mom had already dipped out at this point. My dad raised me by himself. He was it for me. I don't know what would have happened to me if anything ever happened to my dad. So I was terrified. And I stayed in there for a long time because my dad said, don't come out until I come and get you. But a long time had passed. So finally I opened the door, and I looked down the hallway, and I didn't hear anything, and I didn't see anybody. So I left out of my dad's bedroom, and we had this table, and I don't know why, but I remember this table vividly. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. It was kind of like this, a lot like this actually, except the top was like had more of a marble texture instead of like flat white, but it was white with the chrome sides, just like this. And I slowly walk out into the dining room, it's just like an eat-in kitchen, and that table that was white at one time was completely red with blood, and there was blood everywhere, all over the walls, all over the floor, all over this table, on the counters, and there was nobody there. No one was there. I yelled for my dad, I yelled for Gary, for Uncle Jerry, I yelled, and no one was there. So I did the only thing that I could think of to do, and I got a wash rag, and I got it wet, and I started cleaning up the blood. And I remember, wow, I remember cleaning the red blood off of that white 1950s table, 1970s table, whatever. And I didn't even know that I was cleaning up my dad's blood. I remember being really scared, but I don't think I cried. I just stayed there alone, and I cleaned up the house. And I was there alone for a couple of hours before someone finally came back. Gary was a family friend, was my dad's best friend's oldest son. He came back and he got me, and he said that there had been a fight and that somebody threw a beer bottle and it broke against the cabinets and split and cut my dad in his artery right here in his arm, and that's why there was so much blood and it was spurting like on the walls and stuff, because that artery, I mean, it was spitting blood out, and they had to take my dad to the hospital. And in the commotion, everyone just kind of forgot that I was in the bedroom. And I remember we walked up the street to one of my dad's other friends' house, Mitch and Sue. They were really nice. They were really, really good people, and they had money, and they were stable. And Mitch had this big garage with like doom buggies and go-karts and sand rails. And I remember they let me stay there, and they let me spend the night there until my dad got out of the hospital. My dad came home and everything was normal. Like, it was a very normal thing. I got hella stories like that. Let me know if you want to hear more.